Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Duckville here, bringing you some StarCraft action. We've got a PvZ here featuring an Australian player who did quite well at the WCS Australia just a few months ago, or in fact 1 month ago, I should say. He's going to be our Protoss player down at the bottom right-hand side here. It is BiGbiRd, who's currently playing for Carnage Esports, one of a newly merged team with a lot of sort of different players that have joined up together and have formed the Carnage team. It looks as if he's going to be starting here with a Forge Fast Expand on Ohana, of course, a very common way to open up. And as you can see, his opponent in the red as our Zerg player is EGIdraRC. So he's going to be up here. Of course, EGIdraRC doing well himself at the North American Regional Championships for WCS, finishing third, I believe it was, and putting on a really nice display there. And of course, he's got a great history of StarCraft 2, competing in so many events and all that kind of thing, of course, over in Korea for a period of time, back at home at the moment in the EG lair. But we'll find out what he's going to get up to here, of course. EGIdraRC loves a bit of macro play, of course, well known for being that one of those players who loves to just continually drone up and all that kind of thing. So we'll find out if he's going to be doing something like that. I'll be interested to see. Of course, BiGbiRd doing a little bit of pressure there, just saying hello with that probe, putting a, just checking out what's going on. Of course, he doesn't see the spawning pool just yet, so you've got to keep that probe around just to see if you can maybe block off the drone before it gets down to the natural expand. So he's just putting that harassment there on EGIdraRC, and as we can see, the very nice micro there from EGIdraRC, deflecting the probe just a little bit, putting some damage on the probe, but then making sure that the drone doesn't spend too far off the mineral line there. And here he goes, looking to take that expand now that the spawning pool is down. So BiGbiRd's going to try and do his best to block this off. Going to let that probe do a little bit of hurt on the drone before it loses all of its shields. And now that the shields are down, he's going to put the pylon down and retreat for the moment. So BiGbiRd opening up very standard here, and essentially so is EGIdraRC. I mean, obviously he'd love to get the hatchery down at the natural before the pylon goes down and that kind of thing, but of course, when you have this probe to deal with, it can be quite annoying to try and get rid of. Then it becomes a little bit of an issue to try and do that. But BiGbiRd doing a really nice job blocking off. He's actually, well, until that moment, it was looking very nice for him. He actually cancelled the pylon that he had placed down there, and was then trying to sort of get the harassment on again, maybe going to go for the pylon yet again. But back at home, because the hatchery did go up and now some lings are obviously going to be on the way. A cannon needs to go up, and he needs to sort of just make sure that the wall is as close to completion as possible. Of course, once these lings arrive, it's highly unlikely that they'll be able to get through because of the cannon there. It should be able to take some shots and shoot down the lings before they get anywhere close to being inside BiGbiRd's base. So BiGbiRd has now taken his 1 and 2 gas. As we can see, the cannon completes just in time. Meanwhile, the natural is almost just about completed as well. So this is sort of that very standard stage for PvZ, where you'll see the Protoss just chronoing out probes and just really going for that economy and trying to get it maximized as quickly as possible. And of course, for a Zerg, they'll want to get as many drones out as they can before hitting up some gas. And of course, you've got to be careful of certain timings, like of course the very common +1 weapons gateway timing, and then you've also got things like Void Rays and Phoenix, which can come along. So obviously very soon we'll see what BiGbiRd is going to get up to in regards to his harassment. Of course, early on in the PvZ, it's sort of it'll generally fall on the Protoss to start out with the harassment and sort of control the early direction of the game. As we mentioned, you can see things with gateways with +1. As we can see here from BiGbiRd, he is going to pick up that +1 to ground weapons, and that is a little bit of a sign of what he's going to go for. Of course, depending on how many gas you've taken and how much expenditure of your gas you put into sentries, that can sort of determine if you are going to go for a Stargate play with Void Rays. Of course, Void Rays cost quite a bit of gas to get up, so you can't always have the +1 weapons and a bunch of sentries out before you're able to get a Void Ray. So we'll probably eliminate that just for the time being, but of course it'll be very dependent on when what BiGbiRd does here. He's actually just having a quick look here just to see if he can find out if there is any sort of creepy tech that's going on, but it looks like, yeah, there it is, Twilight Council. So he may go for a sort of a +1, perhaps a +2 sort of timing with Blink Stalkers. Of course, this is a little bit of an older strat. You don't see it too often. Back in the much earlier days of StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty, you would see Protoss players, especially. I'm sure a lot of people will remember a game from Nazgul from Team Liquid against, in fact it was against EGIDRA, if I remember correctly, where he brought out the Blink Stalker strat. I think it was the early iteration of the build where it was a +1, just Blink Stalker off one base, and with all sorts of crazy micro you can get the Zerg out of place and just destroy them from there. But it looks like it's going to be a Dark Shrine, so BiGbiRd he's sort of catering to my favor here. I love doing DT strats, of course, as anyone would know if you've watched my stream. Always bringing out the DTs from time to time and trying to get carriers as well, but always trying to make those hard things work. But here he goes. He's picked up those extra 3 gates for a total of 4. Beautiful timing there. Just as Warp Gate completes, he's going to switch those over into the Warp Gates, and the Dark Shrine is also going to complete quite nicely after a couple of rounds of Gateway units. Now, there are a couple of ways you can open up with this DT-based harassment. You can, of course, do exactly what BiGbiRd is doing here with the, it's a little bit slower, of the DTs actually getting across to attack your opponent, or where you actually get, where you get +1 weapons and then sort of do this earlier harassment with Zealots and a couple of Stalkers, or you can do it the way, which is a little bit earlier, gets your DTs in there a lot faster, whereby you go for the Dark Shrine as quickly as possible and forego +1 weapons for a short time. But it looks as if BiGbiRd is not going to get too much done here. EGIDRA well prepared for this. A few roaches have come out, and even these slowlings are useful here. We're taking down the Stalker and Zealot force, but already we've got DTs warping in. They are going to go straight into the base here. We'll probably see him split up, maybe 2 here inside the Nat and then 2 inside the main as well. EGIDRA is trying to prepare for this. In fact, it's 3 DTs on the natural expand here. Sporecrawler's trying to get up as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, BiGbiRd is going to try and expand down to his 3rd behind all of this harassment. EGIDRA trying to get his units in position to attack those DTs before they can escape or get too much damage done, but it is already done. The hatchery has been destroyed. Meanwhile, inside the main, this DT was getting a little bit done. He's got 4 kills, was trying to take down the Spore Crawlers before they could complete, but EGIDRA, with some really good micro, was able to hold that up, and it looks as if he's just going to have to go back to plan A and get that restarted again. Meanwhile, another DT has come down to the 3rd base, trying to put some pressure on, but already EGIDRA has those defenses prepared with the Spore Crawler there to detect and the Spine Crawler there to poke. So, good opening there from BiGbiRd. Of course, he did get a few kills. I think there were only a couple of worker kills, only 7 kills. It's not a huge amount, but it's certainly it's nothing to sort of just to wipe off. Of course, as we mentioned earlier, a Zerg want to try and get that economy going as quickly as possible, and so EGIDRA is sort of forced into this position here with those few kills, and obviously with the hatchery going down, that he has to sort of wait. Things will be a little bit more delayed than they normally would have been. Of course, if he was looking to go for a Roach-based play, which it doesn't look as if he is going to, like a sort of a heavy Roach play, that wouldn't be coming through at this normal sort of timing that it would be now. This would normally be a lot more powerful, but it looks as if he is going to find that that 3rd base is already done. Of course, he did see with the Overlord that was just having a quick look here, but BiGbiRd with a couple of gates, a couple of cannons, is well defended here. Even so, that this force is generally, I think it's a little bit bigger. Yeah, it's a little bit bigger than what BiGbiRd has. He's not really going to be able to bust through too much there, so he's going to have to head back. He's going to have to tech up, and as we can see, he's got +1 to melee weapons on the way, pathogen glands for the infestors, which will start popping out very soon, and with the natural hatchery just about to complete, he'll be able to get all that economy started up again. So EGIDRA, I wouldn't say he's definitely not in a bad position, but he's just a little bit on the back foot at the moment, just trying to sort of get himself into that position he likes with that really heavy economy, and with those with the particular play that he likes coming up, which looks to be like he's going to stick with a ground-based force, of course, with those infestors coming out and the +1 to melee attacks and ground carapace on the way. He'll probably look to go for something with a lot of lings and a lot of infestors, I would assume, and then transition into late-stage broodlords and infestors. So, meanwhile, for BiGbiRd, he's got the robo done. Of course, we will probably see some Colossus started up very soon, because the robo bay is just completing. Here it is, just across to the side there, and there is the Colossus. So one is on on the way already. We do have a couple of Immortals just prepared here in case of a Roach attack, and of course a lot of these sentries available with a lot of energy for them as well. So he's locked off the front section here. Normally where you'd be exiting the natural base, he's actually just blocked that one off, so there's no way that Hydra's going to realistically be able to force his way through there without committing a lot to that. So he's going to be walking out the third base here, and he's going to be sitting in a very nice spot with +3 to weapons already on the way. So our Protoss Australian Big Bird is looking good right now. Another DT just warping in and having a quick look around. He's going to see if he can find a sweet spot here. Finds that there are a couple of infestors jumping out. There is also the Spire going down as well. So Big Bird's going to be aware of all of these timings here. He may even just keep this DT around and not attack with it for the time being, just to make sure he can keep an eye on exactly what's going on. Now, with that said, there is an observer out. Where is it exactly? I don't know where it is, but Hydra's starting to get his creep spread around, which means that Big Bird will have to start trying to deal with that very soon. But here he goes. He does utilize the DT and is going to force a cancel on the Spire. Now, this will slow down that Broodlord tech at the sort of the latest stage of the game. As we can see, the Hive is just about halfway done through morphing in, and the Queen does go down. The DT with its +2 obviously does a lot of damage, and despite the fact that the Spinecrawler was there to sort of deflect and get rid of that DT, he still did a little bit of damage taking down that Queen, which is quite nice indeed. So now we can see that Big Bird is starting to push across. He does know that that fourth base is there for Hydra. Now just coming through, there are a few Spinecrawlers prepared here. This is going to be very interesting because of these infestors. They do have a lot of energy, and they are ready to go, throwing down some infested Terrans. He's going to force back the Protoss for now, and with a flanking attack down to the southern side, Big Bird is put in a little bit of a difficult position. He is clumped up, as we can see, fungal growth going down on top of all of those units there, and that is not going to be good for all of those Protoss forces. As you can see, they are starting to get whittled down a little bit, but the Colossus survived with no Corruptors out to counter them just yet. Hydra is going to be successful in defending this base for the time being, but for how long, I wonder, because Big Bird is starting to prepare with a proxy pylon here. Does Hydra actually see that one? You should see it, yeah. You should know that one's there, and yeah, here he comes, just to make sure that that doesn't go up. Don't want a proxy pylon in your base. That would be not good at all. So with the Spire complete, Hydra now gets out a couple of Corruptors. I'm assuming we'll probably see a few of those come out, but he is sticking with this Roach tech at the moment. Very interesting to see that he's gone so hard on those, given that there is a very heavy Stalker presence out on the map at the moment, along with these Colossus, a couple of the Immortals still there as well. So Big Bird is going to have a little bit of an advantage there, not to mention the fact that these Roaches do not have any attack upgrades at the moment. They've got the advantage of the Carapace upgrade, but here we go. Big Bird sort of trying to maneuver into a good position here, locks out some of those Roaches across to the side. The Infestor's putting down some fungal growth, looking good right now for Big Bird. The Corruptors are only just on the way now, and as we can see, Big Bird just sort of maneuvering himself into a really good position now. Despite being clumped up, he does a great deal of damage with that +3 on the weapons here. Hydra is starting to struggle a bit with the Protoss now surging ahead in the supply count. Ling's starting to come down the ramp. The Corruptors are still on the way. There are 6 of them, and they are coming, but it's not going to be in time, and Hydra leaves the game. So Big Bird taking a big kill there. Our Australian player doing quite well against Hydra. It was just a little bit of a sort of a weird situation after the DT attack early on in the game, where Hydra had to, he sort of switched over into those Roaches and then didn't have the upgrades, and it sort of went a little bit weird. So I hope you all enjoyed that one. I'll catch you all next time. Cheers.